Hello and welcome to the Speaking Frankly Football Show. I'm Frank Hughes, the chairman of Skelmersdale United Football Club, and alongside me is my co-host and passionate press officer AJ Vergette. Not that being involved with the football club is a prerequisite for hosting a football podcast, but it certainly helps. We are ready to dive headfirst into the vibrant world of non-league football in the Northwest, and we might even take a moment to discuss some of the bigger headlines in the sport. We'll explore life in the Northwest counties, bring you interviews with well-known faces in the league, and analyse how local teams are performing while making bold predictions for their upcoming matches. Nothing is off the limits here. We'll be diving into all kinds of topics, including complicated refereeing decisions and regulations that often leave fans perplexed. We want to hear from you too. This is your show, so don't hesitate to reach out with topics you want us to tackle. Let's get this conversation started and enjoy every single moment. We are speaking frankly. Coming up in the second episode of the Speaking Frankly show, AJ and I will discuss Skelmersdale United's latest defeat and the good and bad aspects of our current struggles. The Glossop North End manager Richard Brodie will appear on the show later to discuss his team's progress. We'll discuss club's expectations once they've stepped up through promotion, noting that Bamber Bridge and Blyth Spartans are currently struggling in their respective divisions. Do we all know what our natural levels are within the pyramid? Controversial issues, including kicking the ball away and sin bins. And of course, we'll finish the show by discussing results, forthcoming fixtures, and predictions. Welcome to the show, AJ.
Hello, Frank. Hi, everyone. Thank you very much for tuning in again. Yeah, as Frank said, we've got a lot of topics to cover within the time that we're here. We're also going to be looking at Radcliffe FC and their current situation within the National League, and we're also going to take a little bit of a drop in on the news around Chris Hoy, so stay tuned for all of that.
Yes, so covering our defeat really, the saying is the night is as at its darkest before it gets light. Does that sort of sum up the feeling?
I think so, yeah. The difficulties for Skelmersdale United are quite well documented, and I think we do have points where we think we're going to now start to find an upward trajectory, and then a defeat or a performance puts paid to that thought process, and then we're back to square one again. I don't think we're that far away from a good result. I think we've got games coming up where we certainly feel like a result is there for the taking. I think Blackpool certainly was one, but unfortunately, I think it was a bit of a false dawn. So I don't think it is far away, but right now it is just a case of having to ride out the night.
It was very much a game of two halves, really, wasn't it? Two early mistakes in the game, and then towards the end of the first half, we conceded another two goals, and it was pretty much like we were playing the real Blackpool in the end, certainly at the end of that first half. The second half, you could arguably say, if there's such a thing, that we won the second half.
We did.
But it's hugely disappointing because we, like you say, we felt as though a change of fortune was on the horizon, but it didn't quite happen for us. How do you stop a losing mentality?
I think it's really tough in Skelmersdale United's position right now, in that all of the experience of seeing the light after the dark is on the touchline and in the stands. As far as the squad goes, we've got nobody of any real experience who can tell you that it is going to get better because they know firsthand. It's all very well the management team on the sideline saying it, and I do believe the players believe it, but it is hard to see it when you're going through the volume of defeats that we are, and it's the same on the on the stands as well. Like I know we've had discussions with fans and with other members of SCEM and saying the result is coming, it's going to get better, but I think the players need to be able to believe it. But at the same time, I don't think they are experienced enough in knowing that it's going to come. So all that I can really offer in terms of how to amend is a losing mentality, is to have a fresh head before every single game, seeing it as a fresh opportunity to win and not a presumption that we're going to lose. And to echo the saying of Ted Lasso, which is just to be a goldfish and to just forget it
Yeah.
within 10 minutes. It's the best that can be offered in situations like this, is to and just keep going and keep believing that result is going to come.
And we can't forget the fact that a lot of our players are extremely young, so they're learning as they go.
This is true. Yeah, we've spoken uh, with Tommy, and he's emphasised time and time again that these are all really young lads. Our youngest squad member was 17, and I think, with the exception of one, I think our eldest player is about 23 or 24. They're still taking incredibly early steps within the life of football and a football team. And like I said, the experience and the know-how of turning seasons and turning games around just isn't there. But we're fortunate enough that there's a core spine of boys who have been at this club since the start of the season and keep coming back game after game, believing that they are going to win.
Yeah, and Tommy spoke really well in his interview last week, but you can't help but feel sorry for him at the moment. He must be racking his brain and looking for all the solutions and wondering when they're gonna arrive.
I don't believe there's anybody in professional football management that could do any better than what Tommy Lawson is doing at this point, with what's at his disposal in terms of players, in terms of finances. He genuinely is, I believe, doing the best that he can. He's trying to find a settled squad. He's trying to put players in the correct positions that work for them and work for the team on the day. And I believe that he loves this club. In fact, I know that he loves this
Oh,
club.
there's no doubt about it. He absolutely does. And I think he's trying to get to that point where he can establish a squad. It's very, very difficult to start from scratch, as we know. But if anybody has got that experience to turn things around, then I'm pretty sure Tommy will do it.
I believe so. Yeah, I believe the stars just need to align for him on that one game where he's got all his players that he wants. He can pick the 11 that he wants. He picks the tactics that are right for him against the opposition. Everything just needs to line up for that one game to be able to kick on, and I believe it's coming. I do.
Yeah, and a little rant because ahead of the game on Saturday, the good and bad, if you like. We had a great start to the day. A few of us participated in a sponsored walk from Stormy Corner to the ground in Bearscope to raise money for the Alfie Lund Fund, which is a great cause, by the way. I managed to finish the walk, drove back home, had a shower, and then drove to St Helens to pick up one of the players. I get a call from Rowena to be told that some idiot has threatened to set off flares at the game as a form of protest against the manager and myself. I'm knackered, not just because of the walk, but because I've spent the entire week working on behalf of the football club, most notably trying to secure the club's future, only to hear that some numpty has dared to threaten to do something that could not only harm an innocent bystander, but could also give him a lifetime ban. You don't need it. You just don't need it.
No, you absolutely don't. And it's going to throw off preparation for the team to try and get a result that we so desperately wanted against Blackpool. We should emphasise that no such pyrotechnic episode did take place, so we were glad of that. But it still is enough to wind you up and to make you angry when you put in all this effort to try and save this club. And the noises and mumblings of a very minor few are loud enough for you to have to stop and take notice purely because of a threat to people's safety. It's not on. Pyrotechnics aren't needed in the game, so just leave them be.
Yeah, well, listen, we get the upset, don't we? Because we're all in it for the same reasons. We want to win, so we understand the negativity from the supporters. But we're searching for stability, and we can't be sacking managers left, right, and centre. We did that. We had a couple of managers last season, and we just can't keep sacking managers.
No, we don't, and I think there's certainly no need to sack Tommy. We look at Manchester United at this moment, and they tried to do a cultural reboot where they brought in Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, who was very fabric of the club's most successful period during the 90s. And if you equate that to Skelmersdale United, Tommy Lawson is the fabric of the club's sort of extremely successful period this side of the 21st century. And the sacking will bring with it instability, and it will bring with it a challenge to find once again the right manager to be able to steer the club in the collective forward direction. But I don't believe there's anybody else out there who could perform any better than what Tommy Lawson is doing. So it's just really important that we stand behind him, stand behind the club, and just keep moving forward.
And it's worth mentioning at this point that the club is solvent, which means it's running and it's not running with debt. We might be playing away from home every game. We know that, and it's quite expensive to do that. We've been fortunate with our sponsorship deals and people that have donated money to the football club, and of course our great, band of supporters that we've got as well.
Isn't it also true, Frank, that we are more solvent this season than we were last season?
We certainly are. We managed to get a front of shirt sponsor in Origin Sign Company, which was a blessing because we hadn't had a front of shirt sponsor for at least a couple of seasons, as far as I'm aware. So that's made all the difference. We've had this very, very successful race night, which raised over £2,500. So we're trying to do all the right things off the field, and that's all we can do at the moment. But money is the root of the problems in terms of engaging players and getting quality players, and there's very few and far between the amount of good players that come at a premium, and that's what we're dealing with at the moment.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, and we're grateful to the boys that do keep turning out in the blue shirt every single week, and they are playing for the shirt. They are playing for the badge, and unfortunately, they are coming up against squads that have been together for several seasons now. This squad is in its infancy, not only in terms of the years in which the players were born, but also in the amount of time that the players have actually been together and trying to get to know each other and learn how each other play. And that's still changing all the time. Our squad now is quite a bit different from the squad that was available to us at the start of the season. So we are always changing and we're always trying to find that cohesive and perfect fit. Like I say, I believe it is coming. But we just need to give Tommy and the boys all the support we can to ensure that win does come home.
Yes, indeed. And listen, the route back to Skem is not an easy one. I've been quite vocal in recent days over the proposed closure of the pools in Skelmersdale and Ormskirk. We have a borough council which is all but bankrupt. So we've got to look at other ways of raising money, whether that's through the private sector, a regeneration plan for the town. We want to be a part of that. We need a nice big community hub in Skelmersdale, and that would make all the difference. A return to the town, as we know, is very much needed.
It absolutely is. And all we can do at the minute, like you say, is just work with the relevant bodies and the relevant people to try and ensure that that happens. As you say, Frank, though it was an excellent day on Saturday in the sponsored walk for the Alfie Lund Fund.
Yeah, it certainly was. Obviously, the pyrotechnic situation that overshadowed what had been an excellent day for me. But let's thank, first of all, Mark Lund, Alfie's dad, and Graham West for arranging the walk. The two have a relationship that spanned over 10 years. As a mark of respect, Graham was presented with a lovely watch from Mark, which drew a few tears, but highlighted how people can come together through football and support such a great cause. I was really honoured to be involved in the walk and look forward to the next event, which will be held next year. But once again, like I say, it just highlights the fact that what we've managed to do is bring people together. We're still doing that regardless of the results.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it was really lovely to see the Lunds there, and Graham stood with them watching the football. I know the result isn't quite what they were hoping for, but you put aside the football, and you could see how much it meant to the Lunds and to Graham that this day happened, that this sponsored event occurred, and that awareness was raised for Alfie and the Alfie Lund Fund. Long may it continue.
Yeah, brilliant. And a quick question. I mean, this goes completely off the topics, really, but the oldest club in Lancashire, the oldest football club in Lancashire, do you know who it is?
Uh, you're not going to tell me it's Skem, are you?
No,
No.
listen, we're a million miles away from
Okay.
that. I always believed it was Darwin.
I thought it was Blackburn.
Well, yeah, probably. Certainly in terms of what's in the football league now,
Mm.
it might be in Lancashire, but the answer to the question is Turton.
Okay.
I believe that the some statistician, get the word out, said that that it wasn't Turton. Indeed, it was a team called Heath. What's the pronunciation of Athenaeum? Athenaeum. Is it? I can't
Good
remember.
grief.
Anyway,
Should say
but they are no longer in existence, I don't think. So Turton gets the vote as the oldest club in Lancashire. Incredible. I think that was 1871.
Mm.
Incredible when you think it took us another 17 years, is it?
Yes.
That's not 17 years. Crikey.
Uh,
18, I mean, mathematics is terrible here.
82.
11 years, 11 years,
Yeah.
another 11 years before we were formed.
Hmm.
And another good reason for protecting the legacy, really, of any football club is the long history that it's had. We've talked about that illustrious history, the fact that we've been to Wembley twice and we've won the Amateur FA Cup. We feel as though at some stage there'll be a turn of events and things will, success will come back to the club at some stage.
Yeah, I think so. I think every club in existence goes through these peaks and troughs, if you like, and Skem's no different. So we did have an enormous heyday during the late 60s, the early 70s, when you said we went to Wembley twice. We also had a really good aforementioned heyday about 10, 15 years ago when Tommy was at the helm. We were so close to making it to the National League on a couple of occasions. So really, we're experiencing a trough. So all that can come now is a peak.
Most definitely. Listen, we'll take a quick break, and then when we return, we'll speak to former Skelmersdale United manager and now Glossop North End manager Richard Brodie. Special shout out to all the businesses that support Skelmersdale United Football Club, Origin Sign Company, T&W Garners, 7PDS, Skem Express Cars 5005, Lease Car UK, RNB Auto Centre, SB Skills Solutions and Hey Presto Web Design. Thank you to everyone who donates to the club, supports our race nights, raffles and the lottery bonus ball scheme. And, of course, the last man standing. A special thanks to those who organise these fundraising events, especially the incredible Lee Davis and Lucas Bergquist. To all who stand by us both on and off the field, we are truly grateful. If you wish to sponsor the show, please contact me at chairman.skemutdfc@gmail.com or call me on 07766 054 548. All proceeds will go to Skelmersdale United Football Club. Thank you for your unwavering support. Coming up, our guest today is Richard Brodie, the current manager of Glossop North End. Brodie began his career in non-league football as a young talent at Wycombe. He quickly ascended to a successful career in the semi-professional game, leaving his mark at clubs such as York City. With 2 National League titles to his name, Brodie has also graced the grand stage of Wembley on 2 occasions, showcasing his considerable talents. He also made an impact in the Football League with Morecambe. Channeling all his invaluable experience, he stepped into football management in 2022, taking the reins at Skelmersdale United. After a brief stint at Bearscough, he found his true calling at Glossop. Welcome to the show, Richard Brodie. Right, hello and welcome to Richard Brodie. Welcome onto the Speaking Frankly Football Show.
Thanks, Frank. Thank you. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, no problem at all. Listen, you played for Skem United Football Club. You've managed for a full season and you had a decent finish in 11th place. Do you have any fond memories?
Yeah, I do, Frank. What happened was I was very lucky when I played professionally that I didn't have many injuries, just a couple of rolled ankles and black eyes, etc. And then I was at Ramsbottom and I got a knee injury. And Lee Donoghue sent me to Paul McNally, so I've got to play for you. So I came in, I played. All my career I'd been used to travelling, so living in Southport, going to Skem was on my doorstep really. I just had a young son, so it was really handy for me and it suited, and sometimes things fit, and really enjoyed it, towards the end of my career. And then all of a sudden I decided that I wanted to coach and manage. And during lockdown, you get a lot of chance to sit down and to read things and to learn and to sort of educate yourself on football. And Macca thankfully gave me the opportunity to become a player coach, and I ended up being player assistant and then a manager as well as still playing. But I was very, very proud in the fact that I led the club to a 11th place finishing step 4, which was the highest since Tommy Lawson, and I'm very, very proud of that. My first job as a young manager.
Yeah, brilliant. And listen, just to put sort of the record straight, when you left Skem, it was during a period of uncertainty. You just sort of come into football management and you want to prolong that career. It's difficult to have, a bad CV. You don't want to have a bad CV in your first year. So you've seen an opportunity to move on. Things a little bit sketchy at Skem. Nobody knows what's going on financially. That's why I ended up coming back to the football club, and we just sort of passed each other in that process. But you didn't leave Skem because you wanted to. You just felt that it was the right thing for you to do at that moment.
Yeah, listen, it was such a hard decision because people who know me and I've played with and family, etc., know that I've never walked away from anything in my life. I sort of tackle things head on, not afraid, and it was a bit of a, when you've played the game and I made a lot of decisions based on other people and probably didn't put myself first at times, and you learn, and I think it was a time when I had to do it for myself, because as a young manager doing okay in my first job, it could have been the beginning of the end. Unfortunately for me, but the football club was in. You're right, such a period of uncertainty, and day by day, I was losing a member of staff, player, even to the point where it was tracksuits, it was footballs, it was equipment. There was no answers there, and that wasn't anybody's fault. I'm not blaming anybody. That was just the unfortunate position that the football club sort of landed themselves in. But I had to think about myself, and I know it probably didn't go down well, the opportunity to take the Bershka job, but I was promised something there that, all right, albeit it didn't work out in the end, but I had to make that decision for myself.
Yeah, and of course, there's limited opportunities, particularly in this area in terms of managerial posts. So going to Bersco, like you say, suited the purpose, really. You're a local lad.
Yeah, it did, and the club was sort of starting again, if you like. As I said, it didn't work out. I really enjoyed my time there, and again, my record was very good, 5 wins from 12 games, and unfortunately, I was relieved of my duties, and at the time, that was a real difficult place, because for the first time in probably 20 years, I didn't have football in my life for a good month, and I was really down. I'll be honest, it hurt, because football's been the best addiction ever for me, and without it, I struggled for 4 weeks. I was happy to admit I was in a bit of a bad place. But that's football, and I spoke to Brian Richardson after I'd been sacked, and he sort of said everyone needs a good second on the CV, and it happened, and I've learned from it, and moved on to Glossop now, and really happy.
Yeah, and geographically, it's a tough gig. I assume it's a difficult place to attract players, and it must also take its toll on you, as you do live in Southport. It's a 140-mile round trip, an hour and a half each way, and then you've got training on top of that. How do you personally cope?
It's difficult, because you all know we all work full time, and I've got 2 young children, and for me, like I said before, I've been used to traveling as a player. It's a little bit different as a manager, because when you're a player, you're just traveling to turn up the train to go home. Um, when you when you're managing, you've got yourself and probably 35, 40 other people at the football club to worry about. Luckily, this day and age, you've got hands free in the car, so the hour and a half kind of flies over, because you probably spend half your time making phone calls, trying to settle things, or organise things, or speak to players. But as far as training goes, Tuesday, Thursday, I literally pick my kids up from Q school at 3:15, throw them out the car, and that's me going to training. Get back whatever time you get back after games, and you're back up for work the next day. I'll be honest, if it wasn't for football, like I said before, during me tough 5 weeks without it, I need football in my life, and I want football in my life. And as much as it's busy, I'm a person that needs to be kept busy. And yes, I do moan sometimes, and yes, getting up early, it's hard, and sometimes I'm a little bit grumpy with the kids, but it's life, and I enjoy it, and I want to progress. I'm ambitious. I want to go and manage where I played, if that opportunity comes about.
Yeah, and listen, you played at the top level of non-league football. You've even sort of skirted with the professional game as well at Morecambe. How do you view the difference between the semi-professional game and the full-on professional?
Um, I don't think the players wise it's different, because you get a lot of lads who've had opportunity to go full time, who haven't, because of the job they hold, and financially it's not right for them. So you get a lot of good players that have stayed part time, and have a good job. You get a lot of players that have just been unlucky and unfortunate, and haven't made it for whatever reason. Because I'm a big believer in it's being in the right place at the right time. There's players that just have had problems, and haven't progressed. There's players who have played higher and are dropping down. That's the thing I love about this level. You get all sorts of different players, and I always said that I made so many mistakes on and off the field, and And I've come into management to try and help players progress, and also try and avoid them and stop them making the same mistakes that I did. Try and advise them in the right manner, because I've done it, and I don't want other people to make the same mistakes that I did, if you like. But the way I do things part time, I try and do things as professionally as possible. And the lads that play for us know the routine, know the structure. I think you've got to have a structure in anything you do in life, as well as football. And if the players can buy into what you're trying to do, then you've won half your battle before you put a training session on.
Yeah, and like you say, you've made those mistakes yourself. So, in terms of helping talented young players on, that must be part of your driving force.
Yeah, it is, and little things like, for me, as a forward, scoring goals, that was great. It was brilliant. But when you're doing something on a training ground, or you're putting a practice into place, or for example, set piece into place, and that comes off on a Saturday, the buzz you get from it is something completely different. And as a forward, there's no better buzz than scoring goals. But as a manager, doing that and seeing your players, one, that they're listening, two, they can carry it out, and three, it actually comes off. It is a satisfaction that I can't really explain. It's so satisfying in the fact that I wanted them to do it, and they've gone out and actually done it. And even better when it gets you a result, to win a game of football.
Yeah. So when it doesn't quite go your way, Saturday's defeat, you're coasting 1-0, you think, and in injury time they score 2 goals, Sandbach, and you're knocked out of the FA Vars. Was that a tough defeat to handle?
It was tough, Frank. I really I didn't see it coming. I was more shocked than anything else, because as poor as we were better than them. And we all know 1-0, 2-0 can be a very sticky scoreline, but it was the most comfortable 1-0 I'd ever felt. And I didn't see any. Caught us a couple of times on the counter attack in the first half, but I just couldn't see them hurting us. And when he added 3 minutes on at 90, I thought, oh, brilliant, because usually this day and age you see 5, 6, 7 minutes being added, so I thought, great. I'd even put a strip on to make a substitution, to waste 30 seconds to try and kill the game, and then the score. And you're going, wow, where's that come from? Then we get a Stonewall penalty turned down in between. And then they go and score again, and it was just a massive, massive sucker punch. And there was more that happened in the last 3 minutes of the game than did in the night before that.
Mm.
Really tough one to take.
You,
That's
it is.
why we all love it.
Yeah, and you've just alluded to the fact that you're still putting your boots on yourself. You're going to carry on playing?
It's a, it's one of them. We've been in a position where we've had a lot of injuries at the moment, and whether you can say it's a luxury or not, people will probably say it's more of a hindrance than anything else. But we're in a position with the fact that I am able to half put a strip on and do a job if need be. It's not what I want to do, and it's not ideal, but sometimes at this level, you know yourself, non-league football is difficult situation, and it's needs must. And if I can do a job for 15, 20 minutes, my main priority is the other players, not me. So if one of my players is injured and I need him for Saturday, or he's carrying it up, then I'm not bothered about me coming on and getting injured. I need him, right? So if I've got to sacrifice myself for someone else to be fit, then that's what I've got to do, and that's part of my job.
Yeah, and you've mentioned injuries there. Of course, they don't help. But after a difficult start to the season, you seem to have pulled things together a bit in the league. A draw away at Bury recently, for example.
Yeah, we started poorly, and speak to managers and speak to players, and I couldn't put my finger on it, Frank, because I was doing everything that I'd done previous. I've come into the club. The club were in a position where they'd been relegated, and when nearly got relegated again. And so I had to look at it, and we're seeing the season out. We stayed up, and then I went through a group of players and seen that some players in that group had been relegated, nearly relegated again. Seen two managers off. Things didn't change massively for me in the group. So I thought, right, if some of these players aren't going to buy into what I want to do, I've got to change personnel and bring players in that I want. And when I go and sign a player, it's not so much the ability they've got. I like to have a look at the background, what they do for a job, where they live, who they travel in with. Because I felt when I played, sometimes you were treated as a bit of me, not as a human being. And I tried to nurture players and make them feel happy in an environment. But I brought my own new players in, and I think there's 2, maybe 3 only left from 12 months ago when I took over. And it does take a while for players to bed in and to gel, but luckily we've turned a corner and we've had some good results recently. I think we've lost 3 out the last 14, which isn't a bad run at all. And when we get everyone back fit, I'm just hoping that we can kick on again, because as you know, up until October, November, December, Christmas time, it's a pivotal period into where you're going to finish at the end of the season.
Yeah, and it's quite an unforgiving game, isn't it, in terms of people don't sort of notice the rebuild that you have to undertake when you take over a club.
No, it is. And also, sometimes players have to take a little bit of responsibility as well, because and it really annoys me at times. And I know, listen, I'm not daft. We're part time. We're not full time. And sometimes when I started playing part time, it took me a while to get that, because football's been number one for me, and then everything else comes after that. I don't mean my kids and my family. I mean, going away on holiday, or I've got a stag do, or I've got, I had to get my head around that people worked and people have other things, other commitments, shall I say?
You have to
And
make sacrifices, don't you?
you do, and that's that's sometimes players, I've got a stag do, I've got a wedding, and just when you get a little bit of momentum and that happens, that can kill you straight away. So it is hard sometimes, and then you get a phone call at 5 o'clock on a Tuesday saying, "Oh, I'm stuck in work," and these are the things you've got to try and get past. And it's not making excuses; it's just the reality of non-league football, and it is difficult to rebuild a squad. But I feel the group that I've got now, the dressing room, and the lads know me now, and I'm very, very proud in the fact that I've got the likes of Conor Gallagher, the likes of Abdul, who played for me at Skem at Step 4 and have wanted to come back and play for us. That's a massive compliment for me.
Yeah.
And the fact that they're comfortable coming to play for me. They know what I'm about. Not daft. If they come to me and they've got a problem, then come and speak to me, because we all have issues and we've all got other things going on. But I know that on a Saturday, I know what they're going to give me, and I like to trust my players. And the dressing room I've got, Frank's really good, and I'm proud of that. I'm probably giving away a little secret where sometimes I'll just walk in on a Saturday and I'll just nick a jelly baby. I'm not going in for anything. Well, they think I'm not, but I'm having a look around to see who's talking to who, see if people who are travelling in together are sitting next to somebody else. And I used the word on the 15th of June when I went in pre-season. The first word I used was togetherness, and that's massive, especially at this level. And if we can get a group of lads together with a team spirit, that bond's only going to grow. And let's see where we can go with it when that bond starts growing even more.
Yeah, and you're creating a stability there, and also installing a certain amount of discipline as well, which seems to be lacking in this day and age.
Yeah, discipline's massive. And was a problem last season. People turn up late, people come in when they want, and then if you're not disciplined off the pitch, you're not disciplined on it. So there was no surprise that we kept conceding from set pieces, because you asked someone to mark the man. You're not disciplined enough to turn up on time, so how are you going to mark your man? So that's been eradicated, and the lads know. My structure is, and I'll, whether it be a Tuesday or a Thursday, if you're injured, you come in at 6:30. We meet at 6:45. We start at 7. On a Thursday, we'll have a brief team meeting for 10-15 minutes on sort of the opposition analysis. Then we'll go out and train, and they'll be done for 8:30 and away home. So there's nothing worse sometimes than not knowing how long you're training for or when you're going to finish, because the lads can say to the missus, to the mums, the dads, the whoever, look, I'll be done for 8:30. I'll be home for whatever time. So it's about planning, and I go back to having that structure in people's lives, and they know what I'm about. They know that I don't talk a lot. When I do talk, they listen. Sometimes I do have a go at them and moan at them, but that's only because I want them to be better, or I want them to do the job, because then collectively we all become better. But one thing I will do is I'll have a pint with them at the end of the game, and I'm still one of the lads, and I miss the playing side of it. But the best manager, that I played for was Martin Foyle, in the things that I've done and how well I've done for him because of how he treated me. And one of the best managers who I dealt with who had that barrier between he's the manager, but one of the lads was Jim Bentley at Morecambe, who's now manager of Southport. Jim was fantastic at it, and I try and take all the good bits and bobs out of the good managers that I played for, and try and use it to make myself better.
Yeah, and you certainly seem to be doing that. One of our old favourites is there, Yasin. How's he doing?
He's doing great, Frank. He's a lovely lad. Unfortunately, he's had a bit of a family issue the last 2 or 3 weeks. I think his brother had an operation back in France, so he's been away for 2 to 3 weeks. He returned last Tuesday. We've kept in touch with him over time and with the odd text message, and it was actually really refreshing to see when he turned up last Tuesday at Earlham and the lads hadn't seen him and I had to give him a big hug. And when you're walking out that dressing room and it's about 6:20 and the lads are just meeting, and it makes me happy that you haven't got 6 sat over there or 12 sat over there or 2 there. They're all stood in a big group on the pitch having a chat. And it was great to see him back, and I know he was very well thought of at Skem as well, so he's a great addition to us.
Yeah, great character. Always got a smile on his face, so he must be good in the dressing room.
Yeah, he is. And again, breath of fresh air. When you see your own players walking into a dressing room on a Saturday or a Tuesday or a Thursday, and they're all smiling and laughing, that's a compliment, because it shows that my staff as well who've been fantastic for me. But it's a big bonus for us because you know that they're comfortable in the environment.
Yeah, definitely. And listen, talking about this weekend, tomorrow, you've got Abbey Hay. It's a tough game, and probably not helped by the fact that at the top of the discipline charts, I think respectively, is Glossop and Abbey Hay. I'd be surprised if there's 22 players left on the pitch at the end of it. But yeah, a tough game for you there.
It is tough, yeah, it is tough. And listen, the discipline thing, I feel, the game's changed, hasn't it? And we can all moan about officials and things like that. Yes, we have to take a bit of responsibility ourselves, and ultimately, my discipline or my players' discipline, falls back on me, and I'll take that. And I know the chairman spoke to me about it, and I must mention the chairman because he's a real good bloke, and we have a great working relationship. And the opportunity to manage this club is phenomenal, really, because it's got such a good history. But going into Abbey here, it's a bit of a local derby as well, and there's a little bit of needle. There's a little bit of their manager played for Glossop, both of them did, and I think I go back to us ourselves, and I go back to finding ways to win, and we've found different ways to win over the past couple of months, which has been really, really pleasing for me, because it's not all about being pretty. Sometimes you've got to dig in. We've won on penalties. We've come back from 2-0 down at Bury, albeit we didn't win. We drew the game. We've went ahead 1-0 and held on to a lead. Tomorrow's going to be difficult because we can't be bullied, and I'm not saying we will for one bit. I've got a nice group of lads, a really nice top group of lads. We need 4, 5, 6 of them on Saturday to go out there and really roll the sleeves up, because that's what's going to happen. You're going to have to be disciplined at the same time, but you're also going to have to be very, very aggressive in the right manner. But I think we've got better players. So on the day, it will be difficult. They're a good side. I went to watch them Tuesday against AFC Liverpool. We know the level, Frank. Anybody can beat anyone on the day. All I keep saying to our lads is, we're not good enough to turn up, me included. We have to be right. So if you're not right mentally or in the right frame of mind, then it's no good than being on the pitch. I'm looking forward to it. It's after last Saturday, it's a way to bounce back. And we'll have to bounce back, because then we're going to Ramsbottom the following Saturday, who are top of the league.
Right, keep the game there.
Yeah, and look,
they're all big games, aren't they, to be fair?
They are all big games, and now it's a little bit less, shall we say, demanding, because the Tuesday games have kind of stopped a little bit, so it gives us a little bit more time of the week to plan, to rest, to get players back. But listen, no one loves a Saturday afternoon more than me. I wake up with the kids Saturday morning, go and watch my son play, then I play myself, and by 8 o'clock Saturday night, Frank, after about 4 or 5 pints, you're just ready to go to bed, because it's just emotionally drained to the full day. But I wouldn't change it for the world.
Yeah, tell me about it. Listen, I think if I was giving it advice, I think the most disciplined team on Saturday will come out on top. So that's my little bit of advice for you.
I agree.
Now, listen, two of your old teams, York and Gateshead, are doing really well in the National League. I know you're back to York when you can. They've got a brand new stadium, and you'd think it won't be too long before they're playing back in the Football League.
I hope so. People get obsessed with this comment of, oh, they've got, they're a Football League club. You've got to earn your right, and I say it to my players, I say it to anyone, you've got to earn the right to be there. And it was a little bit sort of, dubious, the appointment of the manager when he first come in. And when the last game I went to, it was only his second game in charge, so I haven't had a chance to sit down with him, but I really would like to. I do get invited back, and I haven't forgot about your invite either, by the way. I was meant to be there Tuesday against Barnet, but I wasn't sure what was going to happen with our fixtures, so we left it. But it's a great football club, absolute fantastic memories, and when you go back to somewhere and everyone just thinks, oh.
Well, you're very well appreciated there, aren't you, for what you've done in the past?
It's phenomenal, and I'm not blowing my trumpet, but it makes the hairs on the back of your neck start. People coming to give you a hug, and I went the last time, and there's people on the table next to me was Steve McLaren, and there's people coming asking me for a picture, not Steve McLaren. I was overwhelmed by it because I know I have a laugh and a joke, but fantastic football club. I had some fantastic memories, and then even to be invited back by Steve Watson when Watto was the manager, he invited me back to do a coaching role for a week, and to go and coach there I'm so privileged and honoured to play for the club, and it's just nice that as a club they appreciate what I did as well. And I think I'm not comparing myself at all, Frank, to Craig Bellamy, but people look at Craig Bellamy and say, oh, he would never be a manager. Now he's managing Wales, and I think people have that perception of me just being a daft lad who played the game. And I do really love football, and I want to learn. I want to get better. And I'm sat here now in my front room, and I've got books that I read to try and better myself and learn. Because playing at that level of football for how many years I did as a professional was a dream come true for any young lad. And I want to go back and manage at that level if I can, and I certainly will work as hard as I possibly can to do that. And to get a chance next time in York, maybe to sit down with Adam at York and see how he does things. And I like to pick people's brains, and I certainly did when we were struggling at that time. But ultimately, it's a great football club. Listen, I haven't hidden the fact that it would be my dream job one day, and maybe that's reaching for the stars, but you just never know, do you, Frank? You never know in football.
So the dream is to manage York one day. Listen, I wouldn't be surprised if you make that, you don't make that happen one day. But listen, it's been fabulous speaking to you. Thanks for your time, and good luck tomorrow for the rest of the season.
Thank you. Good luck as well, to Frank, and send Tommy my regards. And listen, I know you're working wonders at that club to get things back right, and you will get it right, mate. So thank you.
Certainly hoping we can do that. Thanks very much for that.
Cheers, Frank.
Cheers. Take care, mate. Thanks for that. Bye now. Welcome to the second part of the show. Let's talk about Radcliffe Football Club. Last season, they picked up the Northern Premier League title in front of a crowd of 2,351, which is a record attendance for them. Bernard Morley and Anthony Johnson, the ex-Salford duo, are current managers. They sit just above the National League North drop zone, following a victory at South Shields on Saturday, which lifted them off the bottom of the table. It must be heartbreaking for them now, but it just shows you how tough it is to make the step up.
Very much so, yeah. I think when you make that jump from, northern Northern League to National League, you open up a wider aperture of clubs throughout the country that you wouldn't have been expected to play at a more county-wide level. And I think that in itself provides an enormous challenge, and I think it shows the kind of the wider gulf in quality that they're now sort of turning their attention to trying to deal with. It certainly would be a challenge beyond what they can be used to, really. That being said, there is fine margins within their season so far. Now, I know we talk about fine margins being everything in this game. So, of the 6 games that they have lost this season, 4 of them have been by single goal difference. That being said, they're on an okay run at the minute. As you say, they're just above the drop zone, where a couple of weeks ago they were right down at the bottom. So they managed back-to-back away wins against South Shields and against Brackley. South Shields was via a penalty. So again, we talk about small margins and little bits of luck. And I think Radcliffe fans would probably agree that no luck is encompassed more for their club recently than winning via a penalty away from home. There are a handful of other teams that are on the same amount of points that they are as well. So relegation certainly isn't a foregone conclusion. And I think in Morley and Johnson, they've got a duo who know how to handle the demands that this level will bring.
Yeah, and it's also worth noting that Marine are also struggling at the high level, and they are second from bottom, albeit they had a decent draw away from home on Saturday, which raises the question: are clubs competing above their level? What is their natural level?
It's an interesting topic to discuss, really. I think in order to make that leap from national to regional, from regional to national, beg your pardon, or indeed from non-league to football league, you need to be well structured beyond the pitch. So having a good pragmatic set of owners, board directors, managers, coaches, all of whom should be able to understand the demands of what they're about to endure. And what really helps is having a squad of players that have unity mixed with the capabilities to handle competing at a higher level. And I think money does come into it a fair bit as well. I think you need to be able to finance, a long stay in a division or two above where you would normally believe that you were capable of.
You would imagine an ambitious club is probably recruiting from the higher level to bring them back down to them, to help them, be competitive. You certainly hope that, but a lot of teams are probably still bringing their players up rather than down. And like you said, it's an expensive it's an expensive thing to do. Players are costly. We know that even at Northwest Counties Division One North level, where we've mentioned it before about figures bandied about like £350 a week for players. God knows what it's like up the National League North. Never mind the National League. There's a lot of money. It's very, very competitive. But if you haven't got the right infrastructure, you're on a hard into nothing. And like I say, you wonder whether, and this will come to Blyth, Spartans, and Bamber Bridge, because that sort of highlights a little bit about what we're talking about. The Blyth Spartans is up for sale at the moment following boycotts and protests. Their chairman took over last April, May, but he appears to have lost the support of his faithful. It's a great club, fantastic FA Cup pedigree. I've been to Croc Park and I've witnessed what the club means to the supporters. I disagree with the stay away protests as they weaken the club. There's absolutely no doubt about it. I can understand it. They've had a couple of games postponed because they haven't had the staff, because various staff have left the club, but it just highlights how difficult it is, even with a reasonably good fan base.
Yeah, it really does. So the owner, one Van Leerkat, as you say, took over the club last April, but has become, I wouldn't even say a polarizing figure. I think there are the good majority of Blyth Spartans fans know and acknowledge that he doesn't get it. He doesn't quite understand what it means to be part of the club and to drive.
Do you think that's true, or do you think that's a narrative that people have created? Because people could say the same about you and I at Skem United Football Club, couldn't they? It depends what narrative they want to portray. I mean, first of all, he's come in and he's injected, I think you said £70,000, didn't he? So he's obviously put his money where his mouth is, and in terms of support, I think supporters of Skelmersdale United Football Club would be happy to see an injection of cash, but sometimes you've got to be careful what you wish for.
Yeah, if the money isn't injected into the longevity and good structure of the club and is more just thrown at players, who want £350 a week, and obviously the money's going to dry up very quickly. We even see it at the top level with teams like Chelsea. They not getting very far for the amount of money that they've injected into the club recently, and I think it maybe proves that it Blythe's position as well. I mean, to put it sort of into perspective, the owners employed Nobby Solano, the ex-Newcastle and Aston Villa winger, and he lasted 5 games.
Was this before Fan came to the club?
No, it was after.
Oh, right, was it?
Didn't last very long at all. Steve Howard, the ex-Leicester City player, he's been brought in as the sporting director. Solano's gone. Howard is still there, and in David Stockdale, they actually have managed to, bring results back a little bit. I think he's won 3 from, I think it's about 8-9 games, something like that. But I think the lack of connection with his club is there. I mean, it's there to the extent that Ian Lavery, who is the MP for Blyth and I think it's Northumberland East, actually went to the House of Commons and emphasised the necessity for communication between owner and fans, which quite clearly hasn't been happening at Blyth. So I do believe that the narrative isn't just there to be driven. I do believe that he has kind of disassociated himself from the fans, and I don't think it is quite as polarizing that it's splitting opinion. I do think the majority are agreeing that he's not fit for what the club need in him right now, and I think it is showing in their league form as well. bottom, of the league, and relegation isn't a foregone conclusion, but they are going to have to work hard.
Is it down to decision making by the chairman then? Because if he's brought the money in, you employ what you perceive to be the right management team, and they don't get it right, and then you go again, like they've done in recent times. You can't always blame it on the chairman.
Not at all. You don't always blame it on the chairman. However, I'll go back to that word communication. I don't believe it should have got as far as the House of Commons if he'd had a reasonable level of communication with his fan base. And I just don't think that he has. I think
I do find quite amusing that it gets to that stage where it's discussed in the House of Commons.
Yeah.
I'd love to know whether Skem will ever get on that list of conversations.
Well, we'll need to talk to Ashley Dalton a whole lot more before it gets to that level. But if it is getting to that level, then I think something is seriously wrong. It's actually a huge source of frustration in the last two postponed games were against Gainsborough Trinity and FC United of Manchester, who are 2 and 1 places above them in the table, and they're the teams that they are most likely to catch in this race away from relegation, but they're not able to fulfill those real crucial fixtures. And I think that if you are unable to fulfill fixtures, not because of a lack of players, but because of a lack of safe and legal aids within the club on a match day, then there is something seriously wrong with your ability to run a football club. 8 days ago, he did confirm that he was putting the club up for sale, and we are hearing whispers that a takeover may be in the works. They've not been identified as to who these people are, but we certainly do sort of wish them better prosperity for the rest of the season, really.
Yeah, so the change of chairmanship possibly will do the club good. It's early days, as you said, but there seems to be rumblings that something is happening, something is imminent, and hopefully whoever takes over the football club can regalvanise the club and get it back to where it belongs. But listen, once again, chairman gets blamed for the demise of a football club, and maybe the communication levels haven't been good, and maybe people have jumped off the ship. And listen, we don't know the inner workings behind the boardroom, and I always say that when people talk about Skelmersdale United Football Club, unless you actually know what's going on behind the scenes, you can't really. Well, you can comment, you can make your opinions known, but we try to be as honest and open as we can. Some clubs can't for financial reasons or other, and that appears to be the case there at Blyth. But listen, we've got another club closer to home, Bamber Bridge. They recently started a funding page to raise £30,000 for their survival.
Yes, they did. They're doing exceptionally well with it, really. It came.
What is it up to now?
I think it just passed the halfway mark, so it passed 15,000 now, which is a stunning return when you consider that it was only put up 6 weeks ago. It
shows you how difficult it is to raise £30,000, because what was it, a week or so ago, 10 days, did you say?
It was 6 weeks ago that the GoFundMe page was set up. Yes, it was about 6 weeks ago now. But even then, that kind of financial support is quite extraordinary when you consider how much money they are looking for, and they're already halfway there. But it does beg the question of why the club is in that predicament in the first place. I mean, why is it that clubs at this level are needing this kind of level of fund injection to be able to survive?
Yeah, well, we came in for a little fair bit of stick towards the beginning of the season when we set up a GoFundMe page ourselves, and basically what we said, listen, this will help towards some kind of player budget, player expenses. And the argument came back, well, should you really be starting a GoFundMe page? There's better causes, and listen, we know there is, but to a lot of people, the better cause is Skelmersdale United Football Club and protecting its legacy. You'll always have that argument about funding, but from our perspective, like I've said, we're a solvent football club. We were looking for a boost. We weren't looking for a way out of a financial predicament. We're looking for a way out of the current demise in terms of our form and our stature. So that's completely different to what I can't. I know a lot of clubs operate with a budget, and they see where they are at the sort of turn of Christmas, and then they decide if things are looking good, they carry on with the budget. If they aren't, they cut the budget, and that doesn't seem to be, to me, the right way to run a football club. But it's important to cut your cloth accordingly before it's too late anyway.
Yeah, it really, really does. On the pitch, Bamber Bridge are sort of quite towards the lower stages of the of their league, which is the Northern.
Northern Premier League.
It is Northern Premier League, yeah. Thank you. They are sort of within a fighting chance of staving off relegation. They've got a lot of fixtures still to play. They are still in the FA Vars, so that'll be where their journey takes them this weekend. In the meantime, obviously the prosperity and long term security of the club is what's most paramount to those nearest and dearest to them.
Yeah, listen. It's I remember going to watch a game there when, who were they playing? Oh, crikey, Brian Clough's son was in charge at the time.
Nigel, is it Mansfield?
No, it was a non-league football club at the time.
I see.
Can't remember the name of it now. But they were commanding huge gates back then. It seemed, and it's always upsetting to see a football club fall on hard times. But like I go back to before, I think the important thing is to make sure that you budget in the correct manner. Don't be overly ambitious and living beyond your means, because it all comes crashing down if you do. But listen, that's football for you. But listen, I wish them all the best. Wish Blyth Spartans the best of luck, and of course Bamber Bridge. Now to a few sort of controversial bits before we get to the roundup on the scores and results from the weekend.
Sure.
Kicking the ball away. Should it be a bookable offence? And mainly if it's your second offence and it culminates in a sending off. Is it harsh? But it isn't, because it's a rule, isn't it? So
it is. So for me, kicking the ball away, bookable offence, I say yes. And it's petulant, it's time wasting, it's mind games, but it's not in the spirit of the game. And I think we're in danger of getting dragged into this mire of football being a dirty game, a classless game. We've called it the beautiful game for a reason. I don't think kicking the ball away is part of that beautiful game that we so know and love. And
we've seen the inconsistencies over the weekend. I think it was. There's two examples of kicking the ball away. I don't know whether you picked up on that.
Was that at our level, or was it?
No, I think it was at it was highlighted on the TV. It wasn't. I'm assuming it was at Premier League level. Could have really done me homework, but the point I'm making is that there's also the petulance of referees and what they perceive to be kicking the ball away. A tap is different to kicking the ball away. So
depends
if you divert the ball.
I think it really depends. If the referee's blown his whistle to stop play, I think that's a clear indication that the ball shouldn't really be touched. Like you say, it kind of, his word is the last word, and his opinion is the opinion that matters really. But if you're tapping the ball away after the whistle's gone, whatever direction that might be, except for the player receiving the ball to restart the game, I think that's bookable. It's a clear rule. These are adults, they're not children. There's no misappropriation of the rule, there's no misinterpretation. It's a bookable offence.
So it brings the question about the sin bin, particularly at our level. I mean, obviously it doesn't exist in the Football League or the Premier League, and even above us. I don't think it's steps 5 down, isn't it? In terms of the sin bin, let's talk about the sin bin. As far as I'm aware, it's still in operation, but unlike last season, you get a yellow alongside it. Now, this season, I haven't witnessed anybody going into the sin bin. Have you during our season? I'll probably get told off for saying this, but the cynic in me thinks, well, I wouldn't be surprised if it's getting phased out because the powers that be are losing money.
Little cynical, but I agree. I think it probably will be phased out. I don't think I know of anybody who's encountered the sin binning at all. I'm sure there will have been.
Well, last season I questioned the reason for having the sin bin. By the end of the season, I thought it's not such a bad idea, albeit I think there was one occasion at Barnoldswick Town when we were playing there where we had 3 players sin binned around about the same time, and that's stretching things a little bit in terms of your personnel. But I'm thinking about the sin bin, and I'm saying to myself, when you look at, and that's why I've mentioned the kicking the ball away. Maybe for offences like that, you could operate a sin bin offence, and send them off for 10 minutes rather than send them off completely. And I mean at any stage of the game, even if you've had a yellow, in the heat of the moment, a bit of petulance, sometimes you can't help yourself.
Yeah, I suppose you can argue with that. Really, I still don't really see that much of a reason for it. I suppose the kind of the straight-laced good boy in me sort of says, kicking the ball away is against the rules. There's no need for it. You're getting booked. I don't think I agree with the notion of sin binning. So see, sin binning is more prevalent in the game of rugby, really, and I think it's more prevalent in there because of the high risk nature of the contact sport that it's in. Whereas I don't think.
Well, the sin bin's used primarily, isn't it, for dissent? Well, it is for dissent. So in terms of the conversations that you have or you don't have with a referee, you've got to toe the line. If you go too far, you get sin binned, and we can all understand that there has to be some kind of control. But like I say, maybe the sin bin could be used in a better way.
I don't think it needs to be involved in the game of football at all, to be honest.
Well, yeah, I'll give you an example of something else then. If you are let's, for example, a referee that lets a fair bit of robust tackling go in a game, which would otherwise get a yellow card, there comes to a stage maybe in the second half where he starts throwing them out left, right, and centre. So you can be lenient then, but kicking the ball away, you can't be a little bit lenient.
No, I don't think so, because hard tackles are usually assessed sort of in the very, very tight passages of time before they're made, and petulance like that, I don't think there is any kind of, there's more room for assessment within your own behaviour to do that. If you're tackling hard and tackling fair, that's fine. If you're tackling on the fringes of what's fair and what isn't, the referee is going to have a word with you. So therefore, your judgment is to rein it in. Whereas I don't think you need those kind of clarity for petulant behaviour. I I think you've got to wonder why it's at our level, but it isn't at professional level, because it's the only real sort of division between between semi-pro level, sort of at our steps, and at the top end is that they don't have a sin bin.
So sin bins are not for you.
Not for me.
No. Which, let's come to stadium bans. We weren't going to mention it, but we'll sort of briefly mention it.
Hmm.
And what I'd like to do is I'd like to bring somebody on the show that can explain stadium bans a little bit for us, because we all know that it's managers or assistant managers that receive stadium bans.
Hmm.
We've not heard of any players as such of getting
No.
stadium bans. I can understand maybe at this level a stadium ban stops a manager from managing,
Hmm.
but then how do we discriminate between why we impose a stadium ban as opposed to a touchline ban? I know last season Pascal was sent off and he received a 5-match stadium ban. We appealed it and it was reduced to a 3-match touchline ban.
Hmm.
So I'm a little bit unclear on what the difference is between why would we be determined to have a stadium ban
Hmm.
as opposed to a touchline ban. So it'd be
Mhm.
nice to hear from someone that can throw a little bit of light on that.
Hmm.
But it doesn't seem to be fair. I know in terms of management, you've got a chance of managing a situation still from the sidelines, even though you're supposed to sit down and not speak.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it's a lot easier to police it in the national game when you know that a manager is sort of 2 or 3 tiers into a big stadium stand, and he's not, you know, standing in the shelter behind the dugout. It's much easier to communicate what you want the players to do as a manager in our sort of steps of football, because it's all much tighter, it's much closer together. Um, and I feel like that is why touchline bans, uh, you know, aren't quite as prevalent, but stadium bans are.
Hmm. Like I say, I'd like an answer on that one from the experts, and no doubt we'll get somebody on. Maybe even talk to the vice chairman, referee Gordon Johnson, see what he has to say. Because listen, he's come full circle, hasn't he? He's probably one of the biggest critics of referees going at the moment. But
Mm,
listen, the one thing we do know is that referees have a tough job, and so do the officials. We take nothing away from that. They do an honest job. They don't always make the right decisions, but listen, they have to abide by a set of rules,
mm.
and they're constantly monitored as well, which can't be easy for them. But listen, we'll revisit that again in another show.
Mm.
Now, listen, bit of a hero of mine, Olympian Chris Hoy, has been diagnosed with incurable cancer at the age of 48.
Mm.
Um,
Very sad news, that one.
yeah, the second most decorated Olympic cyclist with 6 goals. Really, really sad news.
Mm.
And just sort of puts everything into perspective, really.
I think it really does humanize you when you see somebody like Chris Hoy, who, you know, acts so superhuman in so much of what he does, whether it was on the track or whether it was you know, supporting the charity appeals. I know he had a lot of you know, organizations quite close to his heart that he was very vocal about raising awareness for, and oddly enough, all of this came about when he pulled a shoulder muscle in the gym. That was it, and they found tumors within him that have metastasized to his bones. But that was all it took, was a little pull in his shoulder for him to be aware of what was going on in his own body.
Do we think that might be related to the cycling? Or
It's difficult to say, and I don't know whether I could give an honest assessment of that. I would hope not. I would really hope that the sport of cycling doesn't come under the spotlight for the kind of illnesses that it
but you
causes.
certainly, when we talk about football and heading the
Yes.
football, dimension and things like that, yeah. Hopefully, it's not related to his Olympic cycling career.
No, certainly not. Obviously, football and heading a ball is obviously a really contentious subject. Obviously, it has been scientifically proven, and I think we will look at that in greater context soon. But for now, I would certainly hope that this isn't the case with cycling and with sitting in a saddle. I think we will just have to kind of look at any and all scientific progression as it comes, really.
Yeah, and of course, it goes without saying. We wish him all the best under difficult circumstances, and to all his family as well.
We absolutely do.
Not that you'll be listening to this show, by the way.
No, if Chris Hoy manages to listen to this pokey podcast, then we've really done well.
We've done well, haven't we?
Yes.
Yeah, listen, after the break, we'll be discussing the weekend results and our predictions. But for now, speak to you later. Welcome to the last part of the show when we talk about last week's results and any surprises and predict the scores for the weekend. But just point out a few statistics. Bearscough, 1 point from the last 4 games, beaten by a very good Chatterton team in midweek. They face Stockport Town tonight, which is by no means an easy game, but I think they'll get back to winning ways with a home advantage, but it will be a tight one. We'll discuss that more in a minute. Bury, out of both FA competitions, did well in the FA Cup, to be fair. In the FA Vars, they came up against an informed Chatterton and lost. No one wants to lose, but on reflection, it's a distraction that they can do without. And of course, they returned to league action and had a good win over Charnock Richard on Tuesday night. They are now 11 points behind leaders Ramsbottom with 6 games in hand. The old adage of it's better to have all the points in the bag might just prove to be their Achilles heel. But for what it's worth, I think they'll get there in the end. They face bottom team Colne, which they should win comfortably. But as their supporters have reminded them, it was at a similar stage last season when they played us and lost. So there's no room for complacency. Atherton LR, the form team in our division at the moment, sitting comfortably behind Holker Old Boys, who beat us, as we know, considerably. Was it 9?
9-0. Yeah, but we won't talk about that.
No, we don't want to talk about that. And then Stafford Town are still top of the Southern Division. Their game was postponed on Saturday. And Alsager is sitting just behind them, where otherwise engaged in FA Vars action on Saturday. So no change there, and no change at the bottom of all divisions. So surprise results. So we What did you? Well, first of all, I have to say that our predictions last week, it was a draw, 3-3.
Was it?
Yes.
Excellent.
I'm not going to prove that because.
Oh, good. That's fair enough.
But yeah, we were fairly close on some.
Yeah.
There was a couple of games postponed as well.
Yeah, there were. So Pilkington, Prestwich Hayes was abandoned. So we never got a result from that. And then
I just hope everything's okay with the player. We assume that was injured.
Certainly do.
Not
Yeah.
heard any more about it.
No. FC St Helens and Cheadle was postponed due to the waterlogged pitch. Garstang and Steeton in the First Division North was for the exact same reason. I think that was that was about the size of it, really. So there were a few postponements, really. With the results, so I think arguably the game of the weekend has to go to Bacup and McGull, who contested a 7-4 victory for Bacup. Toby Wright of Bacup helping himself to 4 goals.
Bit of a worry for us because we've got them at the weekend. Say
Yeah.
no more.
Well, yeah,
We'll
quite.
talk about that later.
Yeah, most definitely. But those 2 teams were sort of really tightly contested in the middle of the First Division North, and Bacup's win there just inches them that little bit closer to Ashton, Main Road, and Droylsden, all of whom are on 31 points.
And if you can hear lots of rustling, it's because we've got lots of pieces of paper.
We do, yeah.
With all the results, the tables, and the fixtures. Yeah, you're spot on there.
Yeah. So the Bacup have a good chance of breaking into that top 6 to top 4 area. So we'll be looking to hold them up on that charge when we visit them at the weekend.
But listen, just going back to the results, we obviously lost 4-1 to AFC Blackpool. But when we were discussing that game, we did sort of mention Luke Heppel and the fact that he was scoring goals.
Yeah, he absolutely was. So not only did he score two of the goals in that game, he also assisted Bobby Carter for both of his. So very, very much the influential player on that team at that point. I mean, his second goal was just one of the most beautiful breakaway goals I have ever seen. And I hate saying that as a representative of the team that was on the receiving end of that. But sometimes
you've got to be honest.
Sometimes you do just have to stand and watch. And Luke Heppel really did give us a torrid time in the first half that weekend. I think we suitably shut him down in the second, but by then the damage had been done.
Is that the bonus like we mentioned before? We won the second half 1-0, so we actually scored a goal. Listen, I don't know how many minutes it is since we scored before, but yeah, we managed to score a goal.
We did, yeah. Jack Flight's first goal for the club. Yeah, it was a good reactive finish to a rebounded save. And I think that kind of put us, on the right path. We're going to take kind of little wins where we can get them, and little positives here and there. Like we say, it's been a really rough season, particularly for the boys as well. So scoring a goal is a little win that we will take in the wider context of the season.
Yeah. And looking at some of the other results there, obviously Bearscough managed a draw at South Liverpool. South Liverpool right down by the drop zone there. A handy point for them because I think it pushed them up a little bit further up the table, did it not?
Yeah, so they're now sort of 6 points clear of Prestwich Hayes at second bottom, and a further 3 points clear of Colne.
So a really valuable point.
So it's a very valuable point. So that's like you say, a really solid result for them. You would have thought that home advantage would have done them a lot of good in in this game against Burscough. Burscough, a bit of a mixed bag of results recently. They're sort of 2 wins in the last 6 games. Scored as many as they've conceded. Whereas excuse me, South Liverpool, 1 win in 6, but 4 draws. So they're becoming some sort of draw specialists at the minute. Nobody within their league has that amount. So I think that was a really valuable point. Pulls them well clear of where they don't want to be.
Yeah. And the other man did nicely there on the 5th place. A nice away win at Longridge, 3-1.
Yeah, Longridge it's not looking like a particularly easy place to go. Again, another
Well,
team
we got
who,
battered there last season.
well, less said about that. But Longridge again, they're a club that are not in the greatest of form. Lost the last 2 games. 1 win in 6. Whereas I think Isle of Man, even with their their travel expenses and their actually method of travel, must be really, really difficult for them. So to go away to Longridge and pull off that result is that's a really good win for them.
Well, we think they're funded by the Isle of Man FA, aren't we, amongst other people,
Oof, I mean,
other organisations. So
it's not a
it's
bad,
nice to have the backing. I
it's
just
not a bad
wonder.
backing to have.
No, I just wonder. Are they geared up to make the step up? Need to speak to someone from the Isle of Man and see whether they could make the step up to the Northern Premier League. Be interesting to see.
They certainly could do, or whether the logistics would prove difficult otherwise.
Yeah, well, it gets more difficult travelling.
Certainly does.
And more expensive, but I take it the flights, the flights alone are costing them a fortune. Or believe they probably get the ferry over, don't they? I'm not too sure.
I would have thought so. So we'll look at the FA Vars first round now, because that was some really good games in there. So Abbey Hulton United went away to Rothwell Corinthians for their kind of respective regional divisions. They are quite evenly matched, and Abbey Hulton walked away with a 5-2 win over Rothwell. So it's a really sort of goal fest for them, and equally sort of big wins for Skegness Town over Oscott Heath, and a bit of a local derby down here, Winsford United over AFC Liverpool, a 4-0 win for
Certainly
Winsford.
weren't expecting that result, were we?
We certainly weren't. No, so obviously AFC Liverpool plying their trade in the Premier Division, sort of comfortably in the upper half of the table, and not the best run of form though. They're again only 2 wins from 6. But
I've just noticed all the results are all muddled up here, aren't they? That's the way they come off the site, unfortunately.
yes, a little. But nonetheless, I certainly wasn't expecting that kind of chasm of victory over over Liverpool. So it's a really good day for Winsford United.
Definitely is. And obviously others in that equation. Everton LR had a 2-1 win over Colne. So that will just add to their fixture congestion.
It will, yeah. I mean, but also we discussed this a little bit last week in how big of a test it would be for Atherton LR to make that jump from First Division North to the Premier Division, and I think on this basis, they could probably argue that they've got a reasonable shout. I know they've got to overhaul Holker Old Boys and then hold off Nelson and Droylsden and Main Road. But as I said last week on the show, I think they can do it. They've got a watertight defence. So that goal, that single solitary goal that Colne
Yeah, they're not
scored.
conceding many, are they?
They really haven't. That was only their 11th. Sorry, they've only conceded 10, so that won't have been many more to add into the cup context.
And it's worth noting, probably got second to our manager, the best manager in the Northwest Counties, in Davy Jones, a young man with doing an extremely fantastic job. There's no doubt about it.
Ambitious and an awful lot of potential in Davy Jones.
No, to get him on the show in the coming weeks, be interesting character to talk to.
We can do that.
Definitely. So looking at right, where are we? We're still with the Premier Division. And like I say, the results are all over the shop here. But I think one of the interesting shock sort of results was on Saturday. Charnock Richard beating Lower Breck 3-1. I don't think either of us predicted that. I think we both thought Lower Breck would win that one.
Yeah, we did. Given where Lower Breck are in the league, they're fourth right now, but it's very, very tight up there. Obviously, Bury have got a few games in hand, but between Lower Breck, the Isle of Man, FC St Helens, and West Didsbury and Chorlton, that's a really, really tight cluster of teams. All of which could break into the top 3 or 4. So it really was a bit of a shock to the system to see them lose that one.
And then if we sort of go midweek, like we mentioned before, Bury managed to win away from home at Charnock Richard, so that got them back. Back on form certainly in the league. Earlham had a 5-0 win over Litherland, and Padiham FC St Helens had a 3-3 draw. And it was Tom Smith, our ex-player, that managed to score the equaliser.
Good for Tom. Really pleased for him there. That was that's a wonderful game for the neutrals. Really, yeah.
There was a lot of cup games during the week as well, wasn't there? Senior cups, county senior cups as well. So we can run through one or two of them, because Sandbach beat Glossop, as we know. In injury time, they had a good solid win, 5-0 win over Barnton in the Cheshire Senior Cup first round. So shows that probably not much of a freak. They're probably in decent form.
Yeah, they are. Props to Joe Bevan, who grabbed 4 goals for himself on that game.
Yeah, have we got his number? Oh, I shouldn't say that, should I? Saying that. But there's listened to a few cup games there. Exton Villa beat Garstang 2-0. South Liverpool beat Cone 2-0. And then we get back to the games that were played in the Premier Division. AFC Liverpool got back to winning ways after a 4-0 defeat, so they beat Abbey Hay 2-1. Good result for them at home.
Last gasp goal from Elliot Taylor there, giving them the points.
Yeah, brilliant.
Like we said, AFC Liverpool like a bit of a stuttering run of form, but they've pulled it back. Abbey Hay, sort of doing quite well. In their last six fixtures. I will get my words out. But I mean, that's a real turnaround for them. So fair play.
And Barnsley, bit of a shock result, I suppose. A 1-0 win over West Didsbury and Chorlton. Looking at the league places, that's sort of affected their playoff position at the moment. They'll need to get back to form quickly.
They certainly will. I mean, that was a real shock result, because West Didsbury and Chorlton are one of the form teams in the Premier League at the minute, whereas Barnsley, their immediate form is very much like their form over the course of the season. It's stable, in the middle of the table. So I don't think anyone could have really called this result. But fair play to Barnsley. They used home advantage to their advantage, and they've taken the win. I think the next game, Chadderton versus Bursko, that's a wonderful game, that one. So Chadderton came up to Burscough on Burscough's home ground and won 4-3.
Yeah, it was a really good result, wasn't it, for Chadderton? But we probably expected that of them. Because if we listen, we'll go to the form tables before we go to the fixtures. Top of the charts in the Premier Division are Chadderton.
Yeah, they are.
They're doing really well, followed by Ramsbottom.
Mm-hmm.
And surprisingly, West Didsbury, a bit of a hiccup, like I say. They've, they come unstuck
They did.
during the week. But yeah, the top 4-5, it's Chadderton, Ramsbottom, West Didsbury, FC Alaman and Perham. In terms of the form table at the bottom, there's really not much to expect there.
Squiersgate.
These don't reflect the league tables, do they? These
no, they don't
reflect the cup games as well. So we've got Bury in 14th place, believe it or not, in the form table, but that does include a couple of cup defeats. So we can't take anything from that in terms of their league form, because they're doing really, really well.
And a lot of games in hand on Chadderton and Ramsbottom.
Yeah, like I say, you'd probably prefer to have points in the bag than games in hand.
Yeah, I think so. I think if Bury players, supporters, managers did have the choice, they'd probably look to put all their eggs in the basket with this one and make that march up the Premier Division with a view to promotion. And I think that is a serious possibility for them.
And when we look at the sort of bottom half of the table, pretty much as we expected there, Squiersgate, Cone and Longridge being the teams out of form at the moment. Squiersgate at the bottom, surprisingly, because
they're sort of sitting 19th at the minute. There's no real threat to them for relegation or finishing at the bottom, but it is a slide that you would want to arrest if you were connected to Squiersgate.
And looking at the First Division North, as we expect, up the top, Everton LR in terms of the form.
Yeah.
Nelson, Droylsden, and a bit of a surprise one, because we talked about them last week. Ashton Town beginning to show a bit of form.
Yeah, they are. I think for us, they're probably pulling in at just the wrong time. We're due to play them in the not too distant, so we could have really done without them hitting form at this point. They're sort of pulling away from the bottom places of the table. They are currently in 13th, 3 points behind Thornton Cleveland's in 12th. Thornton do have a game in hand on them. Pardon me. Ashton have 2 games in hand on Thornton Cleveland's. So that could just sort of be the springboard Ashton need to kind of get up to where they want to be. They've just been in action in the FA Vars first round, a 4-3 away win at Daisy Hill. So that kind of brings their cup adventures on for a little bit longer.
Yeah, they seem to be. Seem to have struck a rich vein of form. Great for them. You look at the bottom of the table. Listen, nothing's changed for us.
We won't sugarcoat it. We are still there.
Yeah, but
it's
the bottom 5 teams are all struggling to get wins and draws, to be perfectly honest. So you get a couple of wins and a couple of draws, and then all of a sudden you
look. Yeah, it's really not beyond our capabilities to kind of pull ourselves back within the reaches of the teams above us. So we still have to play Garstang and Route 1 Rovers, Steeton twice, and Darwin visit us on the 2nd of November. That's going to be a big game. So please turn out in your numbers for that one. As I said last week, they are kind of without their main goal scorer. Leon Creech scored his 100th goal for the club against us, but has now left, and the goals aren't seen to be flowing quite as much as what they would hope. So that could be an opportunity for us. Like I say, we are down at the bottom, but we know it. But we also know
at the halfway point now. So there's 17 league games left. We've played 17. So what we have to do now, like Tommy said before, is we have to play like playoff potentials to turn things around. I've looked at last season's relegation spots, and I think the bottom team finished on 26 points. And when you look at that, it seems like that's a million miles away for us. But then I think the bottom 4 or 5 teams are struggling more than the bottom 4 or 5 teams did last season. I think they were all taking points off each other.
Yeah.
So yeah, that'll play out whatever way it plays. But it looks, when you look back on historically last season, it looks like a difficult ask. Well, listen, we move on to the Stafford, obviously at the top of the Division One South. Like we said before, the 2 teams at the top didn't play on Saturday, so it's pretty much the same.
It's as you were, really.
Yeah, Runcorn, similar position to us, holding up the rest at the bottom.
Yeah.
It's difficult for those at the bottom. We can only sympathise because we're in that position ourselves. But listen, do we want to listen? We briefly mentioned the discipline tables because I did pull it up. It's no surprise talking to Richard Brodie as we did before that he's top of the table in forms of poor discipline with 7 red cards and 52 yellows. Wow. It's amazing that. And then you look at ours.
We're well behaved by
that standard,
by that account. Yeah, so we've accrued 5 yellow cards,
reds,
5 reds, pardon me, which is it's the most in the division, joint with Darwin. We've accrued 22 yellows, which is actually nowhere near.
It's nowhere near the average, is it?
No, it's not. Most teams are comfortably in their 30s. So we're nowhere near that. We're good boys by all accounts. What's interesting about Glossop though is that the team who are second placed within the discipline table with 5 reds and 51 yellows are Abbey Hay, and those teams play each other this weekend.
That's a good segue into the fixtures, and like I say, we got a 3-3 draw last weekend. So we'll look at the fixtures this weekend. Starting tonight with Daisy Hill versus Ashton Athletic, which is a repeat of the cup game.
No, that was Ashton Town.
Sorry, Ashton Athletic. Yes, sorry.
Yeah.
Daisy Hill, Ashton Athletic.
Yeah. So Daisy Hill I've suddenly sort of figured out that Daisy Hill are a sort of serious kind of bogey team unto themselves, really. They can have an absolutely amazing result and they can follow it up with a really poor one. So the inconsistencies across their form are sort of there for all to see, really. Ashton Athletic are a team who we really didn't expect to be in the position where they are. Obviously, we mean no disrespect by this one, but the way that they've played, they've figured out a way to play, and it's caught teams by surprise in their sort of very robust and Route 1 style of football. For me, I would probably say Ashton could have this one, considering how much we pushed Daisy Hill to the edge in our cup game with them a few weeks ago. I would say that Ashton can take this one, so I will say Ashton for the win.
Well, we played both of them recently, so I'll go for. Listen, I'm actually going to name the score as well.
Oh God!
I'll go for a 2-2. Now you need to make a note on your piece of paper there because let's see and let's see where that one goes. But yeah, I'll go 2-2 with that one. I think it's got a draw written all over it, but we'll see. Abbey Hulton United versus Eccleshaw. I don't know how to pronounce that. Eccleshall.
Yeah, one of them.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So Eccles Hall is sitting
Difference between
in.
them, is there?
No, there really isn't. So Eccles Hall is sitting in ninth position. Abbey Holton are in seventh. Abbey Holton do have 2 games in hand on Eccles Hall, and there is already a 5-point difference. Abbey Holton are a bit very much like how I was describing Daisy Hill earlier. They either win spectacularly or they lose. So from their 15 games, Abbey Holton have 8 wins and 6 losses. That being said, they do have advantage over home advantage against Eccleshall, and I think they'll probably take the result in that one, considering as well their recent run of form. Abbey Hall's is pretty good. Well, it's actually as you'd expect in the grand scheme of their season. It's 3 wins and 3 losses with no single draw recorded, whereas Eccles Hall are sort of 1 win in 6. So I'd say a home win for Abbey Holton there.
Yeah, I'll go for a draw. Bit middle of the road again.
Just being
And
belligerent.
I'll go for a 1-1. Listen, we'll race through a few of them, but we'll highlight this one: Abbey Hay versus Glossop North End. That's set up, like you say, in terms of discipline,
Ooh.
set up to be a really, really good game.
Yeah.
Now, if you put your head on the chopping block here, you'd say that there won't be 22 people on that pitch by the end of the game.
I don't think so.
But if you could bet, the odds would be good if you said that all 22 will be on the pitch, and you'd win a lot of money.
Yeah.
But in terms of results, I think Glossop North End will just about take that one.
I think, I think they certainly could. I mean, I know it's an away fixture, and I know that there's a bit of a gap between them in the table. Abbey Hay are 11th, Glossop are 18th. But you wouldn't bet against Richard Brodie really gearing his players up for this one. This is a big game for them. They love a big game. So.
And they'll want to write what they felt as though was an injustice when they lost.
Yeah,
the other day.
I think so. Yeah, I think Brodie will have his players really geared up for this one. The form table, there's not much to separate between them, really. So I'll err on the side of caution on this one, I think, and I'm gonna go for a draw.
Wow. Right.
Sorry, Richard.
Okay. Well, quickly we'll go through these and stop on ones that sort of more interesting size. But
Hope you win, though, Richard. Hope you win.
yes, definitely do. Barnoldswick, South Liverpool. I think that's going to be a Barnoldswick win, so I'll go for a 2-1 win there.
I concur. I'm not going to go into scoreline because I'm not that as clued up as Frank is, but
Crikey.
I will sort of go with his better judgment there, and I'm going to say home win.
Yeah. And 2 informed teams, Chadderton and the Isle of Man. Chadderton, of course, being in really superb form at the moment.
And the rest.
I think it's a little bit too much for the Isle of Man travelling again to an away game. So I'm going to go for a win to Chadderton.
Me too.
Good. Charnock Longridge.
Yeah.
Sorry, coughing there.
Charnock versus Longridge. It's very much a middle of the park. There's they're 12th and 13th in the table. It is a little bit of a derby up the M6. With that being said, I think this probably has a draw kind of written on it to finish. So I will say draw on this one. Yeah,
I'll go for a draw 2-2. Combe versus Bury. I highlighted at the beginning that similar stage last season, we managed to beat Bury 2-1, I think it was, at home. So that was a little bit of a shock for them. So I think the Bury supporters are not taking anything for granted, but I still see Bury winning that game at a canter.
I think at a canter as well. I think it's going to be at least a couple of goals difference in there. I think Bury will want to get right back on track of their cup exits, and I think Colne is a really perfect platform to do that.
For me, that's a 4-1 for Bury.
Mm-hmm.
Litherland, Remica versus Ramsbottom. Liverpool got hammered 5-0 the other day, didn't they?
It did.
Yeah, Ramsbottom, they're top of the league, so I think that again, that's going to be a huge scoreline.
Yeah, they're second in the form table as well. They've got 10 goals in their last 6 games. You wouldn't bet on a few more before the end of that result. So away win.
I think I think it's a 5-0 win for Ramsbottom.
Goodness me.
Yeah. Lower Breck versus Cheadle. I expect Lower Breck to get back on terms, so I'd say a Lower Breck win.
Yeah, I would say that as well for exactly the reasons that you've mentioned. They're going to want to get back onto good terms and keep the fight with the teams above them, Bury, Chadderton and Ramsbottom. So I'm going to say an away win there.
Yeah. Pilkinson's been dragged into that drop zone, so they're at home to AFC Liverpool, like you say, topsy-turvy form. Pilks will want to win that. There's no doubt about that, because they'll want to create a bit of space between them and the bottom 3, get back out of that bottom 3.
They absolutely will.
A difficult game for them.
Yeah. I don't think they'll quite have it in them, in all honesty. I think AFC Liverpool, like I say, they can be, one or the other, 10 wins and 8 losses from their 19 games, just a singular draw. I don't really see it happening this time. I'm going to go for an away win there.
I'm going for an away win, a tight one. As well, a 2-1 win for AFC Liverpool. Unfortunately, I mean, Jenko's a good friend of mine at Pilks, the chairman there, and I wish him all the best. But if I'm being honest there, I think AFC Liverpool will sneak that one. Prestwich Hayes, Padham.
So Prestwich Hayes are sitting second bottom,
Yes.
Padiham at 10th.
Padiham win for me.
Yeah, I think sort of the writing is on the wall for Prestwich Hayes there. It's an away win for Padiham for me.
Yeah,
Now this one.
definitely an away win.
Yeah.
Without a shadow of doubt. But yeah, this one that we're coming up to, West Disbury and Chiltern versus FC St Helens. This is a top of the table clash almost.
Very much so.
7th and 8th respectively, or 6th and 7th, I should say.
Yes, this is true. I know West Disbury and Chiltern had a little bit of a wobble in their last game. And FC St Helens haven't played in a little while.
Getting really good gates there, West Disbury, aren't they? So
certainly are.
It's going to be a hostile crowd.
It could very well be a hostile crowd, and I think that could be what edges it for them. But that being said, you wouldn't count on FC St Helens to spring a surprise. I'm going to go for a home win, but only just.
Yeah, I'll go for a 1-1 draw. Which brings us to the First Division North, and we'll just focus on Skem for now. Baker Borough versus Skem. It's a tough game.
Yeah,
there's absolutely no doubt about that. But if we're gonna break the pattern of play, then we need to. We need to win that one. Yeah. It's going to be difficult. It's a difficult pitch to play on.
Yeah, Bacup, home advantage, reasonable form. It probably belies their position in the table. Sort of quite good, strong middle of the park. But we do have the Denton boys back for us now. After their little excerpts in Milan, obviously Jack Flight's in really good form, and obviously we've got like a solid back four now of McNally, Alex Priestley, Harry, Middlehurst, and Sahit. So. You wouldn't write us off entirely, but I do think
the form book says we're going to lose.
Yeah,
but
you never know.
I'm going to go for a very, very nervous 1-1 draw. But listen, it's funny really because that is the film set for Brassic, and that's exactly what we are.
There we go.
So you never know, that might bring us good fortune for a change.
Yeah, well, we need some good fortune from somewhere. I think Bacup is probably as good a place as any to go and get it. So I'm hoping that the boys will grind out a draw.
Right, we'll race through just the results here.
Definitely.
Darwin, Ashton, I think an Ashton win.
I think an Ashton win too. Yeah,
Yeah, Droylsden, Nelson.
that's
I
a
think
wonderful game
yeah.
to play, like for a neutral. But I think home advantage will do plenty for draws, and I can see a home win.
Home advantage with a big gate, so I'd say 2-1 for that.
Mm-hmm.
Holker Old Boys versus AFC Blackpool. Be a good test to see what the difference is between them two. Haven't played them recently.
This is really funny. So although we've played them recently and sort of obviously lost both times, Holker Old Boys sitting at the top of the table lost 5-1 to AFC Blackpool in the reverse of this fixture earlier on this season. I do think home advantage does count for something though, and although the Blackpool boys are on a bit of a decent run, I can really see Holker taking this one, so I am going for a home win.
2-1, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
For me, McGull, Atherton LR. That's got Atherton LR.
Yeah, it really does. Yeah, that's a watertight defence when you're away from home. I think Davy Jones is very much like the Atletico Madrid manager Diego Simeone. He's going to have his defences absolutely locked up on this one. So yeah, that's an away win for me.
Yeah, good. And Main Road, Route 1 Rovers. It's Main Road for me.
I think so too. Yeah.
Yeah, Steeton, Exton Villa. We want Exton Villa to win because Steeton are just 3 places above us.
Yeah, they are.
So I'm going to go for an Exton win.
I'm going to take that as well.
And I'm hoping.
Yeah.
Obviously. Thornton Cleveland's versus Garstang.
Ooh, the Blackpool File derby.
Yeah, well, we've got to go for Thornton Cleveland's on that one because Garstang are just above us. So go on Thornton Cleveland's with that one.
Yeah, I think so,
we won't get thanked for that with the Garstang fans. But Division 1 South, Asheville versus Cheadle Heath Nomads.
So
I think an Asheville win myself.
Asheville are 4th, Cheadle Hill Nomads are 6th. So it is sort of tightly contested up there, but Asheville do have the better form, and so sort of for that reason, I'm thinking a home win.
Yeah, and Barton Foley Mayor. Is it Mayor? Mayor? Sorry, Mayor. I'm going for Barnton on this one purely because of the positions in the league.
Yeah, they're not accustomed to draws, either of these teams, and I don't really see it playing out that way either. So I'm going to go for a home win as well.
Camelot, Stafford. It's got to be a Stafford win for me. That.
Yeah, I think.
It'll be a difficult one over the water for Stafford. They could come unstuck there, but I can't see it myself personally.
No, I don't see it either. You know, really good rock solid foundations in attack and defence. 4 points clear of the top, game in hand. You're expecting an away win here.
Market Drayton against All Scott.
Well, 12th versus 13th.
Yeah, it's got a draw written all over it.
I think that's very possible. There's sort of a few draws between them, so I'm saying a draw here.
Runcorn, Alsager.
The writing's on the wall here. I think Alsager obviously going to sort of win at a bit of a canter, unfortunately. Now Sandbach versus Shawbury is a bit of an odd one, really. Sandbach obviously coming away with a really good result against Glossop.
Showing a bit of form.
Yeah, they have sort of shown a bit of form at the right time.
With the Cheshire Cup as well.
Yeah, so they're currently sitting in 8th, and Shawbury are in 15th. Shawbury do love a draw, whereas Sandbach, you know, sort of more wins than anything else, but not so good in their defensive record either. So. I think Sandbach will win, but only just.
Yeah, Sandbach.
Yeah,
Sandbach by the odd goal. Yeah. Stockport Georgians against Wolverhampton Sporting
Community. So
Community,
that's 10th versus 17th. They've both got more losses than wins at this one. But I just think with the gap in points accrued between them, I'm seeing a Stockport win. Yeah.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And Winsford versus New Mills.
Winsford with the best defensive record in the division, against New Mills, who are in 5th, just 2 places behind. Not really used to dropping points at Winsford. And if I'm honest, I don't really expect them to this time. So I will say a home win there.
I'll go for it. I'll go for a draw, I think.
Okay.
And listen, we're not going to sort of predict the scores for the midweek games. We're just concentrated on the
weekend
particular
fixtures.
Weekend fixtures. But we have also, of course, we have a midweek game ourselves in the Liverpool Senior Cup against Warrington Rylands. That's going to be a really difficult test for us.
Yeah, it really is. Warrington doing some really good work. Domestically speaking, just signed, I forget his name, but they've signed a youngster from Blackburn to shore up their defence for a little bit. So that's going to be a really, really tough night for us. Obviously, you never write us off, but I think Warrington, I can see them taking this one.
Yeah. That's fair, but right. So looking at a few of the fixtures, there's in the Liverpool Senior Cup, the biggest one appears to be Prescott Cables versus Bearscough. That's a decent little. That's a decent game.
Yeah, it is Prescott Cables versus Bearscough. That's a really sort of it's a really sort of difficult one to put on my head, really. You would think that Prescott Cables would sort of win this one at a bit of a canter, but it is the Cup, so you just never know at this point. I think they'll win, but I think it'll be a lot more difficult than on first glance.
I'm looking at some of the fixtures. I don't see an awful lot of changes come next week in terms of the positions in the table. I think it's all
not at top and bottom. No, I think all the games covered are sort of quite clean cut, and there's nothing that's really going to shake the form table up or the top standings, really. So I think by this time next week, yeah, it'll be business as usual.
and no doubt there will be one or two shocks that weren't expected, but we'll talk about those next week. Thanks for your time, AJ. It's been a pleasure, as per usual. We'll meet up again and do the next episode next week. Thank you for your support, everybody that's listening. We've had great feedback so far.
We have, yeah. Some really good stuff so far. Yeah, I think this is gaining some good traction. Thank you very much for tuning in, everybody, and please don't forget to subscribe to us from wherever you get your podcasts, so that you'll hear it first whenever Frank and I release the next episode of Speaking Frankly Footy.
Yep. Take care and see you soon.
Bye.